Black Lives Matter is a campaign in America highlighting the disproportionate number of black individuals who are killed at the hands of the police in America. And in response to Black Lives Matter, some people said all lives matter. And of course all lives do matter. I guess the point that Black Lives Matter are trying to make is that black lives are somehow not deemed as valuable by the police in America. Do all lives matter? Are some lives worth more than others? Is one Israeli life worth 10 Palestinians? That's normally the exchange rate when you compare the casualties on both sides in that conflict, 10 to 1 roughly. And recently in Morocco there were 2 Nordic tourists murdered, and they're being described as Nordic. I don't know why, not Scandinavia or European, just tourists, but that seems to be the common factor between the both of them. They're from Nordic countries on holiday in Morocco, and people have asked what were they doing in Morocco. They were in an unsafe area and they've been killed. Now I don't know how many people per year are murdered in Morocco, but something about this happening while they're on holiday around Christmas time as well, that gives the story news value. Journalists will talk about finding a man bites dog story. So men get bitten by dogs all the time, and that's not a story. But when a man bites a dog, then you've got something interesting. And 2 Nordic women killed on holiday brutally by people claiming allegiance to Islamic State, that has news value. And I think the stereotypical image of a Nordic person is the blue eyes and the blonde hair. Does a blonde woman being killed have more news value than a dark-haired woman or a black woman or a man or an old person? I don't know. There's certainly something about that imagery that makes it a newsworthy story. I'm not saying it's not a newsworthy story, but all these factors have to be remembered when we're reading the news, when we're gauging what's actually going on in the world. And our concept of how many murders there are, where you're likely to be murdered, where's safe, where's not safe, it's a picture painted by the media. Another cliche from the world of journalism is, if it bleeds, it leads. Gory stories, gruesome pictures are always going to sell newspapers. Tonight, as we speak, there is a murderer on the loose. A man was murdered on a train and he died in Horsley railway station in Surrey. Now obviously that's a tragic story, take nothing away from it, but I think the fact the man died in Surrey and not London, where the train was heading, paints a completely different picture. I mean, last year there were 130 murders in London. That's what, 2 a week, one every 3 days. It's not really a big story, but there would have been far fewer murders in Surrey, and if you get murdered in leafy Surrey, it has much more news value than if you get cut down on the mean streets of London. And that's why some lives are worth more than others. And if you look into crime statistics, you will always see patterns. Of course, there will be more murders in London. There are more people in London. Of course, it will be the poorer areas that have a higher crime rate. Poverty and crime always go hand in hand. There's a correlation between crime and poverty. Now, but depending on your perspective, you could tell me whether crime creates poverty or poverty creates crime, but they're definitely interlinked.